Welcome back to Soft Hands Garage. Special episode bidding farewell to the 65 T-Bird. That's right, she's sold. Great story to it though. It's not over yet. I'll explain the details in a minute. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit, give you an update on where I'm at with the GMC. It's not done. It's been a year since I've done an episode, and it's been about that since I've actually done any work on it. But I did get the engine packed up and taken to the machine shop. Here in the next month or so, it's going to be, getting work done on it. Head's rebuilt. Going to hone out the cylinders. Got to use the same pistons because I'm not spending that kind of money on it. That was kind of the decision that I ended up making, was because he's cheap, inexpensive, like $250 to rebuild the heads. I am going to have him rebuild it though. I'll put it all back together, reassemble it. So it'll probably be more than that, but not too bad, I don't think. $500-600, even if it was $1,000, I'm doing pretty good with that. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to hopefully not smoke, but it's going to lose oil, use oil, because the cylinders aren't perfect. They're scored a bit, it's not too bad, but they're scored. The skirts on the pistons are scored. But when I get it back, it's going to be done and ready to put in the truck, on the chassis, whatever. I've been working on all kinds of stuff, getting the bikes. All of them are up and running really good. Got a little bit of a electrical current leak issue on the Sporty, so what I do is just disconnect the breaker on it, and then that means I got to have the seat off to, throw it back on real quick and start it. But had to drain the fuel out of the big one and get the carburetor off, and had to go through that because it was all gunked up with bad gas. I probably really need to go through the carburetor on the Sporty too, but I'm almost ready to leave again, so I'll do it when I get back. Okay, so first of all, why I'm selling it. The reason I'm selling it is because I'm just too practical. I can't take it anymore. I got back from Texas this last time, pulled it out, washed it, drove it to the post office, put it back in the shop. And that's all I've been doing for, several years now. If it wasn't in the shop getting worked on, that's pretty much what I did with it. Town and back, I made one run up to Camp Verde, and it ended up in the shop for the transmission. That's when the reverse gear went out on it. Had to have the transmission rebuilt. So that's pretty much it. It's either in the shop or, getting washed to go to the post office. I just can't do it anymore. I need a truck. So, all right, so here's the story. So I get the thing into the shop because I'm ready to sell it, and the muffler's got a big hole in it. So I have those guys put new exhaust on it, which took, a month and a half, but fine. They did a good job. It's all welded up. It's got, done a good job with it. It sounds good. Great. So now it's ready. I get it back. I polish it, clean it, polish it, put it on Craigslist, put it on the Face Chat, ready to go for sale. I get a bunch of interest in it right out of the gate. Again, I'm putting trade for a truck on it, so I get some of that. It's mostly junk, as it turns out. People wanting to trade me their junk, or if it's, a real fair trade, they want me to give them cash too. I don't know how people do the trade thing. Never works out for me. I don't know, just not a good negotiator or whatever it is. But anyway, started getting some cash offers for this coming weekend. I got people wanting to travel 2 hours to come pick it up, or to look at it at least. So then I get contacted by this guy, Doug, who asked me, can he come? Will I be here? Can he come look at it on Sunday? I said, sure. You come look at it on Sunday, but I've gotten several people interested that are coming before Sunday, so I'll let you know if it's still here. Well, he replies back with, "I think that was my car." He says, "If that is my old car, it was the first car I ever owned." And he said he ran into some financial situation about 8 years ago, ended up losing it. So that's not who I bought it from, because I bought it less than 5 years ago, about 4.5 years ago is when I bought it from the guy that I got it from. Anyways, he says, give me the VIN number if you would, and I'll check it against my paperwork. He says, I still have the pink slip for it. So immediately I'm going, 80s. He must have bought this in the 80s, if it was his car. So I said, okay, dude, yeah, absolutely. Check it out, see if it's yours. I said, I got these people waiting, but they're just going to wait longer, because if it's your car, I'm pushing them off past Sunday. And if that's what you need to come and look at it is on Sunday, then that's what's happening. I'm not selling it to anybody before you check it out. So he comes back a few hours later, sends me a picture of the pink slip with the VIN number on it. This was his car. And I think the earliest registration that he showed me was 84, 83 or 84, something like that. So sure enough, this guy bought this, was his first car in the early 80s. So puts him probably a little older than me, because I wouldn't have had my first car until 86. A few years older probably than I am. I'm going to ask him, I said that was part of the deal was, he said, I'll pay you more than asking for it if that's my car, before he knew it was his car. And so I said, yeah, let's just see if it's your car. So he says, yep, it's my car. We find out it is his car. And he's like, I'll give you more than asking. And I said, no, you're not giving me more than asking. I asked a fair price for it. I think it was fair price. He's like, well, you had to push those people off to wait for me. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. That story's worth a couple extra $1,000 to me, as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to get that from him. I said, you tell me. I said, that's what the deal is you pay full asking price and tell me the story about this car. So I'm going to try and see if he'll let me video it. It'll be part of this video if it is. If not, then, well, I'll tell you what he said. Anyway, I'll give you the story anyway, secondhand. But I'm pretty stoked about it. I don't know if you could tell, but because I had this concern, that it's kind of heartbreaking a little bit. As much as I am too practical to keep it, at the same time, it bothers me. I love this car, and I hate to see it go. But this makes it a lot easier to take, to have a story like this. That this guy bought it as his first car. This car he bought as his first car back in the early 80s. So, okay, so Doug, and you bought this in 1983?
My parents got it in a trade. My parents had a Honda Accord that they were selling, okay. And we were living in Cardiff by the Sea in Southern California, North County, San Diego.
Wow.
They were selling this Honda. The person that ended up buying the Honda had this 65 and offered it as part of the deal for the Honda. And my dad's like, hey kid, do you want a 65 Thunderbird? And I'm thinking the 55 to 57, the smaller ones. And I'm like, absolutely. And then when he brought it home, I was like, I fell in love with the car.
Yeah.
And when I had the car, it was sitting in somewhere North County. It was over by Huntington Beach or something. It was in one of those alleys behind the condos and stuff. And a garbage truck had actually backed into the driver's side door and pushed it into a fence. So the driver's side door had primer on it, and then there was a couple primer spots on the passenger side door. But this was my first car.
Right.
And then fast forward, I drove it out here in 86 to go to school. Sometime late 86, the water pump went bad. And
so did you repair the door and stuff?
I know it was a faded green.
Yes, I saw it in the gas tank door.
Yep,
and I could see the color.
It was a faded green at the time, and it just had the primer on the doors.
Okay,
and that was the way it was. And when the water pump went bad. I figured I was going to just swap the cam out, and then had problems with the cam, getting the cam in and getting it retimed, and bent push rods, and then I parked it because at that time the odometer said 120,000 miles.
Okay.
And I'm like, all right, 120,000. I'm going to pull the engine, pull the transmission out of it. Again, I'm 19, 20 years old. I shouldn't be
Great
turning into a car.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm bouncing from apartment to house to apartment, roommates
and pickup truck when I was out that
stuff like that. And yeah, I just never got rid of it. I just would make whatever happen. I would pay $100 a month for, I don't know, 10, 15 years doing storage shed. When I finally bought a house, we moved it over to the side of the house, and I built a little lean-to canopy over it. Then we bought another house that the garage was not big enough to hold this car. So it went back into a storage shed. Now we're into 2007, 2008. The economy's tanking for the world.
Right.
I get laid off, and having a wife and 2 kids that needed to have a roof over their head and food on the table and shoes on their feet, paying a storage shed fee was the last thing. So I lost it.
Sure.
And it was heartbroken. It was like this all these years of taking this car from place to place with the intentions of getting it
doing the next
what
thing
you guys did to it.
And I'll tell you, that's not what we did to it. Well, I'll get to the whole thing of it, but we actually bought it painted, interior done, a lot of work, big stuff was done already when we bought it. 4.5 years ago, it was turning 50 in 20, and that's when we bought it in September. And like you say, that was an ad.
Yeah.
And so the thing was, so the only way I was like, how did we even recognize if you didn't do the paint? But it was the plate on the front of it, which is.
When I lost the car a couple years later, I saw it listed on Craigslist.
Right.
And that's how I identified that that was my car. And then you could also see down the side, because they hadn't done all the body work or anything to it.
Okay.
So the plate was the first thing I saw, but then the other pictures of the vehicle, it was definitely mine.
Sure.
But one of the things that, once it was painted and done, that tipped me off that this was the car, was that original description that I think that you guys saw. It said the seller thought it was a California, Arizona car.
Sure, right.
And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. The interior is that green interior. That makes sense. They had the passenger seat had the headrest that would go up, and so the interior looked like it. But the other thing is that there are 2 holes right on that fender well where I had a Mallory super coil or whatever mounted.
Okay.
And it's those 2 holes right there. And that's where I mounted the coil.
You recognize
I recognized the car from those 2 holes. And that's when I saw it, and I'm like, I wasn't, again, at a position to where I could buy it.
Sure.
And so I figured, again, by this time, I figured it was long gone. And when you bought it, I figured it was going to be back east somewhere. I mean, it was not, at the time I had it, there wasn't any rust.
Sure.
It was fairly straight. I figured it was going to be back east somewhere, and it was gone. So I'm looking at, every now and then I'll look on, like, Bring a Trailer, or looking at the different car sites.
So you've just been looking for it.
Just looking.
Okay.
And this week,
There
I just happened to be on Facebook Marketplace, and it was the very first listing for a 1965 Thunderbird was yours. And that's when I reached out to you and I asked, I think that's my car. Would you send me the VIN number? And I still have the pink slip from 1987. I have a couple of years of registration from California for it. And when you shared that VIN number with me, and I got home that day and I looked, and I just almost fell because it's like, that's it. That was the verification I needed, and the fact that you guys are willing to sell it back to me, I just can't thank you enough.
Absolutely. Well, that's what it's about, with the car community thing.
It's
in this era anyway.
Exactly.
Today it's like whatever, but with this it's like helping each other out, and getting it done. Absolutely. Awesome story.
Love the car.
Thank you very much, and we'll go over the details now. I just wanted to catch that.
Much.
We talked for about an hour and a half. Got to hear some more stories about the early days driving it around Phoenix, and I went over the list of things that were done and still needed to be done. And I got to get in my to-do list that I had for it. We got to do some more administrative stuff. next weekend. But it's gone. He drove it home. Sounded good. Hopefully everything went well. I hadn't heard anything back. I don't know why there would be any problems. She's running. She is running strong. So, it's gone. So, on to the next project, and that's going to be the square body. Got to do brake stuff on it again. So that's what I'm doing next. So let's take one last look at the old girl.